It's not supposed to happen in Beverly Hills. A movie executive and his wife were brutally slain in their million-dollar mansion.
To me, it was like a nightmare, like a movie, like it couldn't be reality.
Almost 3 decades later,
the case that captured the attention of this country, the Menendez brothers, Eric and Lyle.
Did your father have contact with you?
On the night of August 20th, 1989, it was business as usual at the 911 dispatch center until a call came in from the son of Jose Menendez, a prominent figure in the entertainment industry.
Are they still there? The person who shot, they were shot. We have a hysterical person on the phone.
Within moments, first responders were racing to the exclusive Beverly Hills address, where the brutal murders of Jose and his wife, Kitty, had just been reported. This call marked the beginning of a sensational case filled with shocking brutality, deep-seated mysteries, and unrelenting media attention. One that would captivate and disturb an entire nation. Today, we'll look into the brutal case of the notorious Menendez murders. Chapter 1. Background. Jose Menendez was a successful Cuban-American entertainment executive who had worked his way up from humble beginnings to become a prominent figure in Hollywood. He and his wife, Mary Louise Anderson, nicknamed Kitty to those who knew her, originally from Illinois, lived an affluent lifestyle in Beverly Hills, California. While he was regarded as an intelligent, diligent, and a stern figure by the public, his co-workers regarded him as a rude, arrogant, and a total control freak. While some may disregard these factors as something needed in an executive role, deep down, there was a much darker play at hand, and we'll tell you exactly why. Jose and Kitty would go on to have 2 sons, Joseph Lyle Menendez, born January 1968, and Eric Galen Menendez, born November 1970. On the surface, this was an ideal family living the American dream in one of the most exclusive blocks in a Beverly Hills mansion, which was once used by prominent stars like Michael Jackson and Elton John. The Menendez brothers appeared to embody the perfect image of success in Reagan-era America. Lyle and Eric were both standout tennis players, with Eric achieving a national ranking as number 44th in the whole United States division of under-18 group. In many ways, success was inevitable for them, given their father Jose's reputation as a demanding figure who pushed his children to excel in sports and all other aspects of life. But their grades were not up to the par. In fact, Lyle got into the famed Princeton, but was later placed on academic probation and then got suspended due to plagiarizing work. It's also worth noting that before they moved to Beverly Hills, LA, the family resided in California, where both brothers Lyle and Eric had committed a series of burglaries. Who knew the brothers would turn from these non-violent crimes to something entirely different? Chapter 2. The Notorious Menendez Murders. On the night of August 20th, 1989, a 911 operator received a distress call from Lyle Menendez, who told the operator, "Someone killed my parents," claiming he had just returned home and found their bodies.
Someone killed my parents.
Pardon me?
Someone killed my parents.
What? Who? Were they shot?
Yes.
Eric could be heard in the background, crying and screaming. When the police arrived, both Lyle and Eric rushed out of the house, running toward the officers while shouting. So what happened? The cops and everyone who witnessed the crime scene wondered. From the brutality of the murders, it felt like a mob hit. No one could suspect the 2 boys could have pulled off such a feat. Let's rewind a bit and figure out how the 2 sons planned the murder. One factor that suggested one of the brothers had a hand in the murders, as in his high school years. Eric wrote an amateur screenplay with his classmate called Friends, which told a story about a rich young man who killed his parents in the perfect murder for the inheritance money. On August 18th, 1989, Lyle and Eric visited multiple gun stores across Southern California with the intention of purchasing handguns. However, complications with Lyle's California driver's license and the state's mandatory 2-week waiting period led them to opt for shotguns instead. They ended up buying Mossberg 12-gauge shotguns, along with birdshot and buckshot ammunition, at a Big 5 sporting goods store in San Diego. To complete the purchase, Eric used a stolen driver's license belonging to Lyle's friend, Donovan Goodrow. On the night of August 20th, 1989, Jose and Kitty Menendez were sitting in the den of their luxurious Beverly Hills mansion, watching television, unaware of the tragedy about to unfold. Lyle and Erik entered the room, each armed with loaded shotguns. Without warning, Lyle fired multiple times at his father, hitting him 6 times, with the final, fatal shot striking the back of Jose's head. Kitty tried to escape, crawling on the ground in desperation, but she was shot a total of 10 times. The final shot, a devastating blow to her cheek, came after Lyle ran to the car, where Erik handed him more ammunition so he could reload and fire the deadly round. After the murders, the brothers stayed in the house for a few minutes, anticipating the arrival of police due to the noise from the gunshots. When no authorities showed up, they left to get rid of their blood-soaked clothing. They buried the shotguns somewhere along Mulholland Drive, trying to erase the evidence. In a bid to create an alibi, they drove to a movie theater and attempted to buy tickets for the film Batman, but quickly abandoned the idea when they realized the ticket stubs would have a timestamp that didn't fit their story. Instead, they made their way to the Taste of LA festival at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, blending in with the crowd, as if they hadn't just committed murders that would shock a country to its core. Chapter 3. The plot thickens with a twist. Now you might be thinking, the police has enough evidence. So why did it take so long for the brothers to be sentenced? Well, like we said, the plot has a lot of layers and we're going to explain every single one of them. When the first responders walked into the crime scene, they expected an ordinary setup of murders. However, this was something completely different. A scene so brutal that no one expected the brothers would be the ones to pull it off. The 45-year-old Jose and 47-year-old Kitty were not merely killed but left almost unrecognizable after being struck by 15 rounds from 2 12-gauge shotguns. The violence was so extreme that investigators initially suspected a mob hit, given the savage nature of the crime. In the early stages, police focused their investigation on Jose's business rivals, and even an adult industry executive with whom Jose had serious conflicts, believing these connections could point to the murder's motive. Who knew the murderers were about to embark on a journey of a lifetime with the jackpot they just hit? In the months following their parents' violent deaths, the Menendez brothers showed little of the grief one might expect from young men who had just discovered such a horrific scene. Instead, they behaved as if they had hit the lottery. With their father, Jose's estate valued at $14 million, they managed to spend approximately $700,000 within the first 6 months. At 21, Lyle indulged in lavish purchases, including a Rolex, a Porsche, an expensive wardrobe, and even bought a restaurant in Princeton, where he had lived before the murders. Erik, meanwhile, took a more practical approach, buying a Jeep Wrangler, hiring a personal tennis coach for $50,000, and investing $40,000 in a rock concert that ultimately never took place. The brothers also took extravagant vacations, confident that there was more wealth coming their way. However, a $5 million life insurance policy on their father remained out of reach due to legal complications. Perhaps this was what drew some suspicion towards them. So how were they caught? That is exactly where the twist is, and where a key character of the case comes in. You see, both brothers were being counseled by Dr. Jerome Oziel, who used to counsel them before the murders. This is where both brothers confessed to the horrific act. But unbeknownst to them, Oziel used to record the conversations between his clients. Now, Mr. Jerome Oziel had a mistress named Judalon Smith, and she was the one he revealed everything to. For starters, Judalon kept quiet. However, later on, Oziel and Judalon went through a messy breakup, after which Judalon went to the police station and told them everything, from the murderers to the tapes. Pretty soon, the cops seized every piece of evidence and the brothers were finally arrested. Lyle was arrested on March 8, 1990. Erik, who was in Israel at the time for a tennis tournament, flew to Miami and then Los Angeles, where he turned himself into police on March 11th. What followed next was something out of a soap opera. The whole nation chimed in to watch the proceedings of the case as the trial was televised on Court TV, a relatively new cable network dedicated to transforming courtroom proceedings into a blend of entertainment and sport. The first trials lasted for a total of 6 months, where prosecutors argued that the brothers were after inheritance money. But the brothers countered it with the claim that not only were they emotionally abused, they were physically molested by their father in their younger years.
Did your father have contact with you?
Yes, like 2 or 3 times a week.
Since the first trials ended in hung jury, the second trial was launched. But this time, the judge did not allow TV cameras in the courtrooms. After a lot of back and forth, on March 21st, 1996, both Lyle and Erik were found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. In July, they were each sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, receiving 2 consecutive life terms. However, this did not conclude the case of Menendez Brothers. Recently, the case has been reopened after new evidence surfaced. The Los Angeles County District Attorney announced a November 29, 2024 hearing to discuss a possible retrial or resentencing of the brothers. From the resurfaced evidence to the disciplined behavior of both brothers in jail, it is expected that they might roam free one day. But we have to wait and see for that to happen. What do you think? Was this an attempt by the brothers to lay hands on their parents' huge inheritance, or was it simply a tale of 2 siblings having enough of the abuse laid out by their parents and taking matters into their own hands in a life and death situation? Let us know below.